Hi, I'm Daniel, and for this year's Wheel Reinvention Jam, I made a level editor for axis-aligned bounding boxes. I took this year's jam as an opportunity to start learning the Odin programming language. Next year, I want to make a game with a custom game engine, and for that purpose, I want to evaluate Odin. In the game project, I will start with simple level geometry, using only axis-aligned bounding boxes. So I decided to learn Odin by making a simple tool to edit AABBs. I chose to limit myself to AABBs for simplicity's sake. Collision checks and raycasts are relatively easy to deal with using AABBs. For learning purposes, I don't want to use a third-party physics library in my game, so starting with AABBs seems like a good idea for doing simple custom physics. So these are the goals for the project. Ideally, I wanted to use only the Odin vendor libraries to focus on learning the language. In terms of features, I wanted to have a simple 3D camera and a grid, and functionality to add brushes. For the brushes, I wanted to add basic editing capabilities, like translating, scaling, and assigning textures. In terms of rendering, I wanted to use a forward renderer, ideally also with occlusion culling, but this I didn't manage in time during the jam. So it ended up being a pretty brute force, naive renderer. This is the editor. It is centered around the box cursor, which is basically an AABB. You can translate the box cursor and also deform it by editing its faces. The user experience here is a bit clunky, because I used fixed planes for the mouse interactions. After the jam, I added some quality of life features, like a customizable snap factor, which makes editing a bit easier. So, let's add some more brushes to the scene, so we can create a small wall. These black boxes don't look too good, so let's add some textures to the project. We can do that by simply dragging the textures onto the window. We then need to generate an OpenGL texture array from them so that we can assign them to the brushes. Now that the array is created, let's add a wooden door to the wall. Okay, great. Now we can select the door and assign a wooden texture to it. Maybe we can adjust the wall a bit more. And assign the second brick wall texture to this wall. Via the face selection mode, we can also assign textures individually to each face. During the jam, I also implemented some customization. For instance, you can define the visuals of the grid. I learned a lot and will definitely continue working on the editor after the jam. During the jam, I didn't manage to add saving and loading, so serialization will be something I want to tackle soon. And a bit more advanced UV editing would also be nice. And loads of more quality of life features, such as rotating and flipping the brushes. I also plan to add a walk mode where you can toggle between the first-person perspective and the editor, using the AABBs for collision detection. And hopefully, finally, I will be able to implement the occlusion culling. And for the last idea, let's switch over to Blender to visualize it. I was thinking of deforming the AABBs using planes. I'm not sure if this is actually a good idea, but at least in Blender it seems to be somewhat feasible. And that's it. This was my entry for the Wheel Reinvention Jam. Thanks for watching. And you can find the repository on GitHub.